Tonight, of course, as you know, we have with us James Ellroy. If noir is the genre that defines Los Angeles, Ellroy is perhaps the writer who, at this point in time, defines noir, and we're thrilled to have him. I think it was very clever of us to arrange to have this event on December 6th, the day that the book starts, right? Quite exuberantly. 73rd anniversary of the day before Pearl Harbor. It's a novel that the Guardian has called an extraordinary achievement by any measure, and I assume that most of you have read most of it, if not all of it, as we sit here now. And I'm going to encourage you to really think of it as a book club. I'll start once James has read a little bit and we have a little conversation. I hope that you'll all join in and be part of the conversation. So thanks very much, and I think James is ready. If he's not, is he? Oh, here he's coming. Ladies and gentlemen, James Ellroy.
Good afternoon, peepers, prowlers, pederasts, pedants, panty sniffers, punks, and pimps. I'm James Ellroy, the death dog with a hog log, the foul owl with a death growl, the white knight of the far right, and the slick trick with the donkey dick. I am the author of 19 books, masterpieces all. They precede all my future masterpieces. These books will leave you reamed, steamed, and dry cleaned, tied, dyed, and swept to the side, screwed, blued, tattooed, and bafangooed. These are books for the whole fucking family. If the name of your family is the Manson family, if each and every one of you buy 1,000 copies of my new novel, Perfidia, tonight, you will be able to have unlimited sex with each and every person on this earth that you desire every night for the rest of your lives. If each and every one of you buy 2,000 copies of my new novel, Perfidia, tonight, you will be able to have unlimited sex with each and every person on this earth that you desire every night for the rest of your lives, and still get into heaven as the result of a special dispensation signed by me, the Reverend Ellroy. If each and every one of you buy 3,000 copies of my new novel, Perfidia, tonight, you get the sex, you get into heaven, and for the first time in world history, Sunset Boulevard will rule the world. You heard it here first, off the record, on the QT, and very hush, hush. T.S. Eliot wrote, "If you came this way, starting from anywhere, at any time and in any season, it would always be the same. You are not here to instruct yourself or to inform curiosity or to carry report. You are here to kneel where prayer has been proven valid." And for yours truly, James Ellroy, the death dog of American literature, what better place to bow my head in prayer than at a convocation of book readers on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, my smog-bound fatherland, where I was born in the year of our Lord, 1948, also the year of the rat in Chinese astrology. Anne Sexton wrote, my friend, I was born doing reference work in sin and born confessing it. This is what poems are. With mercy for the greedy, they are the tongue's wrangle, the world's pottage, the rat star. Cats, tonight you get the wrangle, tonight you get the pottage. I am your rat, and I am going to hitch you to my star. Geography is destiny. Ross MacDonald wrote, in the end I possess my birthplace and am possessed by its language. Geography is destiny. My parents hatched me in a cool locale. I was born in LA, the film noir epicenter at the height of the film noir era. Perfidia is the first novel of my second LA quartet. The original LA quartet is set in LA between 1946 and 1958. Those four novels are The Black Dahlia, The Big Nowhere, LA Confidential, and White Jazz. I followed the LA quartet up with the Underworld USA trilogy, 3 novels set in America at large between 1958 and 1972. Those 3 novels are American Tabloid, The Cold 6000, and Blood's a Rover. The design of the second LA quartet is unprecedented. I take characters from the first 2 extended bodies of work and place them here in Los Angeles during World War II as significantly younger people. Perfidia, the first novel of the second LA quartet, is a 700-page epic novel set in Los Angeles between December 6, 1941 and December 29, 1941. It is told in real time. It is the party at the edge of the abyss and the precipice of America's ascendance. Tonight, I will read the prologue, a bit of chapter 2, after which the illustrious Tom Lutz, the Führer of the LA Review of Books book club, and I will be in heated, contentious, always fun dialogue, after which we would welcome the most invasively over-personal questions that each and every one of you, peepers, prowlers, pederasts, pedants, panty sniffers, punks, and pimps has for us. Cats, the moment is at hand. James Ellroy reads Perfidia. Reminiscenza. I wandered off in a prairie blizzard 85 years ago. The cold rendered me spellbound then to now. I have outlived the decree and find myself afraid to die. I cannot will cloudbursts the way I once did. I must recollect with yet greater fury. It was a fever then. It remains a fever now. I will not die as long as I live this story. I run to them to buy myself moments now. 23 days, blood libel, a policeman knocks on a young woman's door. Murderer's flags a swirl. 23 days. This storm. Reminiscenza. Chapter 2, Kay Lake's Diary, compiled and chronologically inserted by the Los Angeles Police Museum. Los Angeles, Saturday, December 6, 1941. 11. 23 a.m. I've begun this diary on impulse. An extraordinary scene unfolded as I sat on my separate bedroom terrace. I was sketching the southern view and heard the rumble of engines below me on the strip. I immediately got up and wrote down the precise time and date. I sensed what the rumble portended, and I was right. A line of armored vehicles chugged west on Sunset to fevered scrutiny and applause. It took a full 10 minutes for the armada to pass. The noise was loud, the cheers louder. People stopped their cars to get out and salute the young soldiers. It played hell with the flow of traffic, but no one seemed to care. The soldiers were delighted by this display of respect and affection. They waved and blew kisses. A half-dozen waitresses from Dave's Blue Room ran out and passed them cases of liquor. Somebody shouted, "America," and that's when I knew. The war is coming. I'm going to enlist. I always do what I say I'm going to do. I formally state my intent and proceed from that point. I'm going to write a diary entry every day until the present world conflict concludes or the world blows up. I will walk away from my easy existence and seek official postings near the front lines. I live a dilettante's life now. My compulsive sketch artistry is a schoolgirl's attempt to capture confounding realities. My piano studies and emerging proficiency with the easier Chopin nocturnes stall my pursuit of a true cause. This lovely home in no way allays my psychic discomfort. Lee Blanchard's indulgence is disconcerting more than anything else. This diary is a broadside against stasis and unrest. I have always felt superior to my surroundings. This house states that case most tellingly. I picked out every German expressionist print and every stick of blonde wood furniture. I'm a prairie girl from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and a gifted RVist. I'm moving into my separate bedroom now. My own work is arrogantly displayed on the walls, interspersed with clay and Kandinsky. There are a dozen drawings of a light heavyweight named Bucky Bleichert. He has a hungry young man's body and large buck teeth. I have sketched him many times from ringside seats at the Olympic. Bucky Bleichert is a local celebrity who understands the ephemeral quality of celebrity and does not view boxing as a true cause. His circumspection in the ring delights me. I have never spoken to Bucky Bleichert, but I am certain that I understand him. Because I was a local celebrity once. It was February '39. I was 19. It all pertained to a bank robbery and its alleged solution. This house, a refuge a few years ago, a trap now. The robbery got me this house, not Lee's prudently invested fight winnings. Lee Blanchard is not a savvy investor, as is commonly held, nor is he my lover in the common sense. He entered my life to facilitate my destiny, whatever that is. I know it now. Sioux Falls was an insufficient destiny. The winter cold spells and summer heat waves left people dead. Indians strayed from nearby reservations and stabbed one another in speakeasies. Klansmen broke a Negro man out of the county jail. He was accused of raping a dim-witted white girl. The Klansmen convened a kangaroo court. The girl was slow to exonerate or condemn the man accused. The Klansmen staked him over a red anthill in mid-August. The summer sun, or the ants, killed him. Local lore was divided on this. Protestants despised the few local Catholics. Nativist groups flourished throughout the Depression. Methodists were at odds with Lutherans and Baptists and vice versa. A range war over prize cattle broke out in '34. 14 men were killed near the Iowa state line. My parents and older brother were sweet-natured and content. Their only sin was lack of imagination. I pretended to be one of them in order to live within myself unobstructed. I lived to read, draw, and roam. People talked about me. I dropped racy bon mots in church. I did not care about my family. The fact mildly horrified me. I wanted to run away to Los Angeles and become someone else here. I got a job at a bookstore and stole a month's worth of cash receipts. I left my parents a perfunctory note of farewell. It was November 36th. I was 16. The bus ride west featured dust storms and a flash flood near Albuquerque. Armed goons were stationed at the California border. They were charged to keep indigent Okies out. They were moonlighting LA policemen and a potent view of my destiny. That armored convoy has now passed out of range. That motorized rumble has now left my body. Nothing before this moment exists. The war is coming. I'm going to enlist.
I love hearing you read your stuff, and unfortunately I'm going to quote a couple of things, and I can't do it in your voice, so maybe you can repeat them after me to make it sound better.
I have it memorized.
Yeah. Well, one of them to start us off, Dudley Smith says to, Joseph Kennedy says to Dudley Smith, you should move to Los Angeles. You can fuck movie stars and create mischief.
He was right.
Yeah. And so my first question is why, as I in my introduction, brief introduction, I said LA is the capital of noir and you're the mayor of noir. Why LA? Why is LA the noir city? What is it about LA that makes
I'm actually not a noir writer. Actually, noir is entirely over-scrutinized. Mm-hmm. It's not as important as most people credit it with being. It is primarily a cinematic term that describes a style period that ran from 1945, the end of World War II, up until 1960. I'm a historical novelist and I write books set in LA, the film noir capital, during the film noir era. At least the LA Quartet. The second LA Quartet predates the film noir era. Film noir is here because the movie studios were here and it was cheap to shoot these films on location. Most noir is bullshit. There's a half dozen flawed works of art I don't think there's one single film noir that stands as a complete cinematic work of art. So let's put noir in the shitter right at the get-go. And let's reject the notion that I'm a noir writer. I'm just a dipshit from LA.
You know, I get that. Should we have our first fight now?
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's one definition of noir,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the other definition of noir is much broader. That is, there's the narrow cinematic one, there's a much broader one, in which it encompasses all of crime fiction, basically.
See, you said it there.
Yeah.
We're not going to disagree.
Yeah.
When people say noir, they're really saying the hard-boiled canon.
Yes, exactly. Do you see yourself as part of the hard-boiled canon?
I came out of the hard-boiled canon and became something else. People ask me if I'm pissed off that I'm considered a crime writer, and I have to say, no. It's not that I've done something that people like Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett, James M. Cain, Ross MacDonald, Joseph Wambaugh, Los Angeles policeman turned novelist, my illustrious predecessors have done. I haven't exceeded them in many ways at levels of style and characterization, but I have physically become something that none of them have been. I've become a historical and a political novelist, and I've merged the crime novel with two larger constructions.
Yeah.
So physically, I'm something else.
Absolutely, although James M. Cain wrote a Civil War novel.
He wrote a Civil War novel, he wrote a social realist novel. Yeah.
Neither of them were very good.
They're not very fucking good. And we remember the Postman Alderson Squire's Double Indemnity, Serenade, and Mildred Pierce for a reason.
Yeah.
They were set in LA, and there's some good crime shit.
Let's talk about style.
Okay.
One of the things I did today was I read all the reviews of Perfidia, just to see if I was, you know, people were mentioning things that I was missing, and everybody talks about the staccato style, the short sentences, and it struck me, and this is a little English professory, but I'm an English professor, so I come by it honestly.
Yes.
And the stream of consciousness writers all went for a really, really long line, right? As if the stream of consciousness, as if consciousness could best be represented as having no punctuation, right? And you, when you have people talking, and Dudley Smith, for instance, is a very flowery and kind of powerful orator, right?
Yes.
And so does a long line with great panache. But when you're representing somebody's consciousness, you tend to do it with very, very short bursts, as if consciousness is highly punctuated. Is that a conscious? Is that a conscious?
I write
decision?
rigorously plotted novels with a great deal of exposition. People think their own backstories, or if I'm writing in the first person, describe their own backstories. I have to put out that information to my readers artfully, intelligently, cogently, as a person thinks it.
Yes.
And thinks it, in the case of this book, Perfidia, in real time. And of course, I haven't read many books. I haven't read the 20th century American or English language canon. I've never read Faulkner. I've read 2 books by Hemingway. I read 2 books by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I read a half-dozen books by the illustrious Jewish guys who came in after World War II. I came at this shit as honestly as you came at being an English professor. I've read in my lifetime crime novels almost exclusively.
But when you quote Anne Sexton and I mean, you're obviously reading a little bit outside of that, outside of the crime canon.
You ever seen pictures of Anne Sexton? They'll make you want to read the poetry. I have gone out, a possessed witch, braver at night, dreaming evil. I have done my hitch over the dark houses, light by light. Lonely thing, 12-fingered, out of mind. A woman like that is not a woman quite. I have been her kind. And so,
Yeah.
she offed herself.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, retrospectively, Annie's sister, sit down. It wasn't that bad.
Apparently it was.
Yeah.
One of our book lovers, Kathy Weingeist, in a related question, she said, I've read the noir novelists, I've read the novelists from this period, but she doesn't, and watched a lot of film from this period, but she feels that you're kind of deeply enmeshed in the lingo, the slang of cops and criminals from this period. She wanted to know where you got that, where you researched that.
I didn't research it. I love the American idiom. I love profanity. I love racial invective. I love black, cat, hipster, jazz patois. I love Yiddish. I love alliteration. Why spell a hard C word with a C when you can spell it with a K? Or to designate racial animus with an italicized capital KKK. You know why? Because it's cool with a K. I love the outrageousness of the English language and the Americanization of it.
But the language in the 40s and the language in the 60s and 70s and the language in the teens is a little different. You're reaching into a historical pot of some kind.
It's language, and it's plotted within the overall context of, once again, say, Perfidia. That book, with its 14 plot lines, its real-time construction, its 140 characters, derives from a 700-page outline. I ain't got time to fuck around with extended stream of consciousness or with hopped up language that goes on and on and on. I've got a story to tell, and I want to make the language as jazzy as I can make it. I'm always on that clock of move the story.
Yeah. And I'm gonna. But let me just ask you about one word.
Yeah.
Perfidia.
Yes.
Perfidy is such an interesting concept, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me tell you about the title of this book. You all know the song, right? Perfidia. 1938, big band tune, Latin flavored. Man named Gonzalez wrote it. He might have been Central American. He might have been Cuban. It's been covered 8 million times. There's a surf guitar version. There's a regular rock and roll version. There's a campy version by the Cut Up guys from Forever Plaid. There's Glenn Miller's immortal big band rendition. I love it. And now, my heart finds out Perfidia, for I found you, the love of my life, in somebody else's arms.
Yeah.
It's a he done me wrong, she done me wrong, life is fucked up song. Doesn't it hurt? And isn't it good? Like a motherfucker. It's just one of those songs that gets under your skin. So what happened on December 7th, 1941? I'll tell you. The fucking Japs bombed fucking Pearl Harbor, and America is in the shit. Fucking big time. And everybody's hopped up, looking to get loved, looking to get laid, looking to enlist, looking to fight the fascist beast, and everybody is in love, or at least fixated on 2, 3, 4 people simultaneously. Perfidia is perfidy, which is betrayal in Spanish. This is a love-starved, love-sick book that describes history as a state of yearning. And I am, frankly, a yearning motherfucker. And what do I yearn for? I yearn for history. Because I wasn't born at the time of the Pearl Harbor attack. And I missed the war by 3 years. And it was, when I was a kid, so pervasively, World War II in the American consciousness that at the age of 8, I believed it was still going on. I said something that alerted my mother to this misconception. She said something along the lines of, "Au contraire, Sonny, the war ended 3 years before you were born." I didn't believe her then. I don't believe her now.
Perfidy, I love perfidy because it's, I mean, betrayal, there's a lot of betrayal in all of your books.
Yes.
And some of it is perfidious. That is, some of it is, has that extra twist of the knife, which is that the person kind of goes into the betrayal knowingly from the start.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Masochism. Sometimes you gotta lose. Sometimes you just gotta lose. That's a fundamental truth of film noir. What's, by the way, does anyone know the great theme of film noir? Does anyone know? The great theme of film noir is you're fucked. You've just met a woman. You've kissed her only once. She's about to ask you for a favor. It comes out of nowhere and it's a bit of a curveball. "Baby, will you please kill my husband?" Normally, if a near virtual stranger asks you for something like that, you tell them to fuck off. But if you do it, or at least pledge to do it, she may sleep with you. That's the upside. The downside, your fucking ass is gonna be strapped into the chair in the green room at San Quentin Prison within 6 months' time. And as the pellets drop and the gas rises, your last grateful thought will be of her.
Yeah. And then, that's noir.
Yeah, that's noir. That's perfidious.
And it's also about loss, as you just said. Dudley at one point says, war is the dark grandeur of forfeit.
Yes.
So war is simply love on a different plane.
How very interesting that you got right to the theme of this book. Dudley Smith is, of course, evil, psychopathic, and a war profiteer in Perfidia. Put that aside. I judge Dudley Smith harshly, sternly, although he is the most charming character in this book. What is fate, history, and ultimately God saying to the 4 protagonists of Perfidia as Pearl Harbor is attacked and America goes full bore into World War II? Fate, history, and God are telling Dudley Smith, Hideo Ishida, Kay Lake, and William H. Parker this: you must urgently choose allegiance and love urgently now. Perfidia is in every degree, in every way, my great love story. It's my love poem to Los Angeles, to America, to the Allied forces during World War II. It's a historical romance from its jazzy refrains up through its sense of America's exalted destiny. It's a result of my 3.5 decades as a novelist. It's everything I know about writing novels. It's the culmination of my great love affair with the novel. And it's also my most Christian book. It is also a big love song to God and to America and her grand destiny.
Let me take parts of that one at a time. The first is that Gerald Sato mentioned that, notice that the last word of the book is love, right? That,
who did?
Gerald Sato was here in the book club, right?
There's one other novel of mine that ends with the word love. Do you know what it is? It's The Black Dahlia.
But this feels like its concentration on love is very different from anything that you've written before. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yes.
And how did we get here?
Look at the elements of the story. Look at the level of yearning in this book. Kay Lake is the young woman writing the first diary entry there in 1941. She's 21 years old. Kay Lake is the feminine lead of my much earlier written but latter set book, The Black Dahlia. She will go on in The Black Dahlia to marry Bucky Bleichert, the young boxer that she's obsessed with in the very early pages of this earlier set book here. There's also a young, closeted homosexual, Japanese-American police chemist named Hideo Ishida, who is chastely in love from afar with Bucky Bleichert. William H. Parker, the ultimate hero of this book, the greatest American policeman of the 20th century, in every way the moral voice of this book, is in love with two different women. Neither one is his wife. Dudley Smith is in love with two women. And Hideo Ishida, as stated, will seek out unsuccessfully the heterosexual Bucky Bleichert and will also sustain a simmering crush on the handsome and evil Dudley Smith. Everybody is out for love in this book. This is my deepest concentration of suppressed and unsuppressed desire in fiction.
Let me ask you about the relationship between this book and the other quartet. Is it is it, you know, a lot of novelists will talk about working on a book and watching their characters kind of do surprising things, take off, and no, doesn't happen.
Do not believe any author who says their characters did things that they did not intend. It is self-serving, disingenuous bullshit. You know why? The characters don't exist outside the author's mind. What the person is really saying is they got to a juncture. Mm-hmm. They got to a point where they had more than one narrative option, and they chose one that might have been surprising.
Yes. Let's put it that way. Okay. So when that happened to you in this book, you had to say, well, no, I can't go there because I have to have this character end up at the beginning of this Black Dahlia, right?
Right.
And they have to, so I can't kill them because they have to be alive.
But I thought all this shit out in advance.
Yeah.
Hence the 700-page outline of this thing.
And so you never got, did you have to like make a chart and make sure that people didn't age at the wrong pace?
Yeah, first thing I did was read my own preceding 7 novels and compile a chart.
With everybody's age, dates, projected
ranks of police officers, and all that.
Yeah. And so as you're going along, did you find yourself ever kind of writing up to a point where you had to say, oops, can't do that, and throw it out and go back?
What an outline, a superstructure this rigorously detailed gives me is the chance to extrapolate, to ad-lib within the individual scene, as long as it doesn't contradict the overall whole. So it's that constant tension between a highly charged, written right off the top of my head scene that nevertheless seamlessly fits into the overall superstructure.
Changing gears, Jack Webb.
Yeah.
Now, you've said in interviews that Jack Webb, that the collection of Jack Webb stories was important to you as a kid, right?
Jack Webb wrote a book, The Badge, published in 1958.
Mm-hmm.
It contained a haunting 10-page summary of the Black Dahlia murder case, and that was where I first heard of Elizabeth Short, may she rest in peace, the Black Dahlia.
He doesn't come off very well in this, Jack Webb.
Jack Webb was a jock sniffer, why mince words? He was a cop Monkey, Marine Corps Monkey, fighter pilot Monkey, and one of the world's great wannabes. But I dug him anyway. I'm not a man of action. I'm a sit at home alone with a pen and piece of paper kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I've never wanted to be anything but that. But I can understand men of that great action generation. Jack Webb was born in 1920. He wanted to go bomb Japan, bomb Germany, and who can blame him for that? But he had bad eyesight.
Speaking of Germany, the European war doesn't show up in the book.
No, that's because Hitler, and thank God, was depleting his natural resources with his invasion of Russia, which is mentioned repeatedly in this book when this book begins. Keep in mind, we're only dealing with 23 days.
Right. I have a feeling this answer is going to be similar to the answer about historical language, but when you're dealing with real figures, let's take two Davises, Betty Davis and Jim Davis.
Right.
What are you using as historical reference material, and how important is it that you're accurate?
It's all instinct with me.
Okay.
James Edgar Two Gun Davis was a two-time chief of the Los Angeles Police Department. He is, by any and all sane standard, a psychopath. Betty Davis was a brittle, shallow, intemperate woman of considerable libido. I portray her as such.
And so you didn't read biographies of these people?
I read 40 pages of Betty Davis's self-serving autobiography, The Lonely Life, with its deep overtones of self-pity. Why can't I find a real man who'll stand up to me? Because any man who stood up to you would be given the gate by you in about a second and a half. She begged the question, and she answered it herself, and I realized I had everything I needed.
Now, it's interesting that you mentioned this is your most Christian book. The Catholics in it seem to be not particularly religious people themselves.
They are devoutly religious. They are at war within themselves in the Christian manner, good and evil. When they acquiesce to God's will, they are capable of decency and kindness and self-sacrifice. When they deny the fire of God within them, they do horrible things. And William H. Parker is a man of considerable conscience when compared to Dudley Smith. I'm not a Catholic, I'm a Protestant. I am a son of the Reformation. In fact, many people have pointed out my own tendency for piety and profligacy, and have posited that in a prior lifetime I was Martin Luther. And I do nothing to dispel this in people. In fact, I have a Luther balcony outside my office, and I often go and inveigh to my hedonistic Hollywood Hills neighbors. I have been served with a piece of paper.
Megaphone or just?
Let me tell you about it. It comes to me from a latrine called Rome, that seat of the devil's own sweet empire. It is signed beneath the seal of the fisherman's ring by one fat midden cock known as Leo, also known to you as His Holiness the Pope. I have spoken with God, and He has told me there can be no deals with this fat midden cock. And as for this piece of paper, it is going to burn in hell, and so are the balls of the Medicis. It's not mine, it's John Osborne's.
And so the Archbishop, this is what explains the character of the Archbishop.
Yeah, Archbishop Campbell. Yeah.
And it explains, to a certain extent, the fact that Dudley Smith can show up in a Catholic church on a Sunday.
Yes.
But do you feel Smith is riven the way Parker is about with religious doubt, or doubt about his own activity in relation to his spiritual sense of the world?
There is a deal that William H. Parker and Dudley Smith cut with Archbishop J.J. Campbell. You can interpret the deal and its ramifications and the ultimate actions of Parker and Smith both ways. But I'm the author, and I'm the ultimate authority on this, and I would say that Smith adheres to the deal better than Parker, which says something. And Kay Lake ruminates that these men make me feel humble because they will honor their vows before God. When she has that soliloquy where she states, given his evil, I cannot hate Dudley Smith.
Given his evil, I cannot hate him.
Yeah.
Because
he is possessed of blithe charm, because he is possessed of a democratic cultivation of family, because, oddly, given that it's 1941, he is astonishingly fond of the closeted homosexual Japanese-American Hideo Ishida, which is a head-scratcher even to the astonishingly bright Kay Lake. And people are head-scratchers to me. Aren't they to you?
Yeah.
They're fucking head-scratchers.
Yeah.
All you motherfuckers. You're head-scratchers.
One of the... Okay, I'll just go ahead and say it. The Parker, right,
Yeah.
has a lot of interesting characteristics in this book. One of them is this obsession with a tall, red-headed woman.
Yeah.
Now, there is an author that we know who has written about his obsession with a tall, red-headed woman in memoir.
Yeah, who is it?
It's a guy named Ellroy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Okay. Keep going, Tom.
The question is, why do you give Parker this little bit of your own self?
Who's the ultimate derivation of the tall, red-haired woman? It's a woman from Tunnel City, Wisconsin, named Jean Hilliker, who was murdered in El Monte, California in 1958, and who just was tall and red-haired, and who just happened to be at Northwestern University getting a biology degree at the same time that Whiskey Bill Barker was there attending a traffic cops seminar. Bingo. It's a big historical novel. Dudley Smith, we know, from the original LA Quartet, was born in Dublin in 1905. So it's logical, young Irish boy, Catholic boy, coming of age during the Irish Troubles, would take some shots and perhaps kill some British soldiers. Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, was born in Medford, Massachusetts in 1924. Medford and Boston itself were Irish enclaves. Maybe Dudley Smith, who sponsored his American citizenship by none other than Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., JFK's dad. Well, if his American citizenship was sponsored by Joe Kennedy, maybe he snuck on over to Medford and poured the pork to Elizabeth Short's mom, and maybe the Black Dahlia is Dudley Smith's legitimate daughter. You have two options here. It's real, and I did assiduous research, or I made this shit up. Your call.
I want to turn it over to your questions. I'll ask just one more while people get
Okay.
ready. At one point, you suggest that the spur to violence is one warlord fucking another warlord's goat without asking permission.
Right.
Right. So that's the one of the kind of theories of violence that are running through the book.
That's Dudley Smith cracking the joke.
But it also seems to explain something, right? And then there are lots of other spurs to violence in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are rage at perfidy, right? Some are attempts to get information. You know, it's a form of persuasion. And others seem to be purely, as you say, psychopathic, sociopathic. That is, people who just like to inflict violence. Is one of those more interesting or less interesting, or more to your sense of the essence of the problem of violence?
Everything is contextualized when Hideo Yoshida extrapolates to Dudley Smith that the motive for the killing of the Watanabe family is multi-tiered, racial animus, political disagreement, crazy sex shit. All of these factors, along with others, in symbiotic proportion.
Yeah. And that's the problem.
It's not that it's the problem, it's just that it exists that way, or so I see it.
All right, questions? Yeah, Brian.
Hey, Brian, what's up?
No. I've read LA Confidential, Crime Wave, and now this, and I've loved all three. I know from reading your interview in Paris Review a few years back, you enjoy a good relationship with the LAPD and Crime Wave. Has your attitude of sort of joyful plunder of the department's history ever caused any friction with the modern department?
No, I love LAPD. They're my guys. I am the yearly MC of Los Angeles Police Department Historical Society's Jack Webb Awards. They're my guys. No, people love it when you honor them with the truth. So LAPD's wild and woolly past in all its glory, the cops love it.
Good.
Yeah.
Gerald.
Yeah, I know that Hiroshita is described in Black Dahlia early on. I think Bucky described that Nashville going to Manzanar.
Right.
And that book is, almost, I think, 30 years old, and I was wondering, even at that time, was there gestating some kind of longer story involving Hiroshita? And, you composed more than one novel, say, at the same time.
No, I got lucky on that aside. That is, of course, the genesis of Hideo Yoshida in Perfidia. Bucky Bleichert had a dark secret in his past. It was this. It's explicated in great detail here in Perfidia. What did he do? He ratted out alleged fifth column leanings attributed to his Japanese American friends, the Murakami brothers, and Hideo Yoshida, pals of his at Belmont High School in downtown LA, in order to secure his appointment on LAPD. When I read that, bam, when going through my 7 preceding novels for Perfidia, it hit me just like that. That is the genesis.
Yeah.
A vaguely related question. The title Perfidia, which is so fantastic, you've obviously written a very highly structured novel. Was that title in place before you started, and was that a song that had ruminated in you and you thought for 30 years, I'd love to call something that, and this notion of perfidy, did that sort of permeate you forever, or was it a newer notion?
I knew it was the title of the book very early on. The second LA Quartet derived from a revelatory moment in the winter of '08. I was looking out my southbound office window, cold winter night. I had a synaptic flash of forlorn-looking, handcuffed Japanese Americans heading in the back of a transport vehicle, army vehicle, up a snow-covered pass to Manzanar in the winter of 1942. Came to me in a heartbeat. Second LA Quartet, characters from the first LA Quartet, Underworld USA trilogy, in LA as much younger people during World War II. The first novel will be called Perfidia. It will be about the grave injustice of the Japanese internment. The plot center will be the murder or ritual suicide of a Japanese American family in the hours preceding the Pearl Harbor attack. Bam. Sometimes you just get lucky.
Okay, yeah.
You described it, Dudley and Bill Parker, and which lets us know how you think about them, which is great. How would you describe Kay? She's been important, to the leading lady in this one.
I think she's my most brilliant fictional creation. There's a level of, pardon me?
I like her a lot too.
She's as deep as the ocean. She's as flighty and flirty as a fickle summer wind. She's madcap. She's a clothes horse. She's libidinous in the extreme. She is both wise and feckless, well beyond her years. She's good looking, like a rabid pit bull. She is full of collegiate bonhomie and is mad to attribute meaning. She is a romantic figure, and she embodies to me the romance of the World War II generation American woman.
That's great. I was about to ask you what she wants, maybe you just said it, and she's mad to attribute meaning. Is there anything else that you would say is driving her? I mean, a lot of things drive her, but, how would you ask her?
She is mad to tell the truth and to explicate how she feels about it. She comes out of, as I do, German Romanticism. I don't come out of any literary school. I come out of Beethoven and his successors. I went to my first day of music appreciation class in 1959 over at John Burroughs Junior High in the Wilshire District when I was 11 years old. Teacher was a beatnik type cat named Alan Himes. Had a bust of Beethoven on his desk. Used to pat it on the head all the time. He said something along the lines of, "Hey kids, dig this." He put the needle down on the record, and I heard bum 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 bum. For 54 years now, Ludwig van Beethoven, the single greatest artist ever spawned by civilization, and I have been as one. Beethoven, they call him the German Ellroy. More seriously, you want to get a young boy with an artistic bent and our big artistic dreams hooked on a role model, get him hooked on the best at the gate. Also, I'm entirely too competitive to ever admit that any single writer is that much greater than me. But Beethoven, there's only one explanation for Beethoven, and the gap between Beethoven and all other musicians, and it's this: divinity. His music, his courage, his tortured, buffoonish psyche are as inexplicable to me as that fickle summer wind that only shallowly defines Gaelic.
I think that there's another possible answer too about the question of what drives her, which is she says at one point, we were afire with crazed duty.
Yes.
Right, and that we
were afire with crazed duty. We were, what does she say? It's her soliloquy near the end.
Right.
We were as one and bound by a terrible allegiance in the time of Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, and I think that one of the interesting things about this book is that this is, unlike you, I'm a little suspicious of the Greatest Generation talk myself, but we won't get into that fight. But one of the things that is in the book that is a little foreign to us is the idea that a sense of allegiance would unite disparate people at a historical moment like this. We're so used to people falling out at historical moments like this.
It isn't.
And it does drive her.
It drives her. She and Parker are bound by patriotic allegiance. Ishida and Smith do not share that. The allegiance that they are bound by is symbiosis. Kay Lake, Hideo Ishida, William H. Parker, and Dudley Smith cannot be fully formed without each other. They are there as rivals, lovers, foils, and history's pawns. That's the allegiance that they share. Without the aggregation of the four of them, they are completely adrift, at sea, and lost. And Kay is the only one to put that transmogrification, that metamorphosis into words.
Yeah, Leo.
I was struck by in what you were saying, just about the tension in a way between instinct in the way you write and premeditation.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the outline that's as long as the book itself turns out to be.
Yeah.
And I wonder, just about how the moments when the tension gets more tense. Faulkner, who we were talking about before, or not talking about, once said something to the effect that no surprise for the writer, no surprise for the reader there too. And I just wonder about, are there moments when, in fact, your premeditation runs into your instinct and collides and you have to do something about it?
I'm not at odds with myself in the construction of the book. I view everything in life, dare I say, as in literature, as an opportunity. As a kid, there was a place at the corner of Weatherly Drive and Sunset, the Sunset Strip, so a block east of Doheny on the north side of the street, called the Bit of Sweden. It was a smorgasbord joint. I remember going by there as a little kid. I never ate there that I recall. Kay Lake and her lover in name only, Lee Blanchard, live up the street, Weatherly, north of the Sunset Strip. Parker has to have a early morning meeting with Dudley Smith. The Japanese have just bombed Pearl Harbor. Our declaration of war against Germany is imminent. I have the Bit of Sweden, which I've never entered, feature waitresses in dirndl skirts, beer steins hanging off of pegs, and all kinds of Northern European regalia, and it allows Parker to make a couple of mordant comments on this that were hilarious to me and delighted me in the moment. I knew they had to go someplace and talk. I knew it had to be a restaurant. Ergo, the Bit of Sweden. Now, killjoys may say, and they could be right, the Bit of Sweden wasn't there in 1941. And you know what I say to them? Fuck you.
I'm not from France, but I watched a very good profile on you on the French TV, The Big Bookshop, tell me what it is, if you remember, which was excellent review of your work and your life. And many foreigners know about Los Angeles through your work. And my question is, Is there any place in the world that is equally intriguing to you, like any other city besides Los Angeles that you think is of equal interest?
No, because I'm from here. And if I'd have been from Moose Park, Montana, or Dog Dick, Delaware, as I said in the prologue, I just got lucky. Mom and Dad hatched me in a cool locale. LA, come on vacation, go home on probation.
Although you did once say to me that LA is just the place you come back to when your wife's divorced you.
There is that. That's funny, too.
Yeah, it's funny.
That's why I go when women divorce.
You mentioned how Gene Hilliker is kind of presence in Perfidia. And I had maybe a similar experience when I was reading and I saw my real-life grandaunt as one of the people you described. Now, Amada, she's my maternal grandmother's sister with us. And maybe I wanted to press a little more question that Tom had put about how you make choices as far as using real historical names or events. I mean, she was a suicide.
Yeah.
And as opposed to, say, creating at least a character that has a completely fictional name like Pro Tom and Pro Shigen, like that. Is it just instinct, or is there some kind of...
Well, you know, Neil Hamano, may she rest in peace, your long-lost relative, committed suicide in Lincoln Heights jail the first month of the roundups. That's a matter of the historical record. The character Claire DeHaven, who first appears in my novel, The Big Nowhere, now 10 years younger in this book here, has a fixation on her, along with the actress Renee Falconetti in the Dreyer film, The Passion of Joan of Arc. It was a chance to densify the whole theme of women during World War II. Nao Hamano, Japanese. Renee Falconetti, French, Italian. Joan of Arc, French. Claire DeHaven and Kate American.
The relationship between Dudley Smith and Beth is so powerfully written, and I was wondering if you were you inspired by your personal relationships with your children, or some other real relationships to draw that relationship you have with his daughter?
Excellent question. I don't have any children, and we've already discussed the derivation of Dudley Smith and his illicit patrimony of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, Boston, 1924. There is a haunting sequence in the book. In many ways, it's my favorite in the book, where Elizabeth Short, who is never seen alive in my novel, The Black Dahlia, her character is built entirely from post-mortem reminiscence. She comes out here with her blind friend, young man she dotes on, Tommy Guilfoyle, to see a man she dearly loves, Dudley Smith, her fugitive father. She knows the real story of her patrimony and dotes on charming Dudley. She does not know that he's a psychopathic killer and war profiteer. He brings out the most tender and dutiful sides of her. Most of you folks have read the novel, so it's no big giveaway that Dudley Smith is having a torrid, tortured, soon-to-end love affair with screen legend Betty Davis. They go, Betty Davis, Dudley Smith, Tommy Guilfoyle, and Elizabeth Short, to see the jive, overrated Orson Welles crypto classic Citizen Kane at the Hawaii Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, the month of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Dudley Smith's reaction to Citizen Kane is my reaction. It is always one of boredom, vexation, and outrage over this idiot movie and the status that it has achieved. It goes bad from there, as you well know. I know you're past that part, sir, in the book. And what you glimpse in Dudley's love for Elizabeth Short is that he's capable of self-sacrifice, that there is within the stone-cold killer's heart of Dudley Liam Smith a kernel of tenderness, and it's a kernel of tenderness that only women spark. My intent with Elizabeth Short in Perfidia and with the major role that Elizabeth Short will play in the next 3 books is to honor her as a living, breathing human being, a character, morally upright, fully observed, and that this is my redress of the imbalance of her dead, butchered, hideously tortured in the vacant lot at 39th and North.
But it is a really beautiful thing, isn't it? His fatherly affection for her.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. If we don't have another question, there's one in the back here.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about how these characters are in love with more than one person.
Yeah.
And how that squares with this being your most Christian novel.
Well, they're all looking for one person, but in the meantime, as someone realized, those swabbies at Pearl didn't know what hit them. We could be next. So you got Kay, and she's digging on Bucky from afar. Scotty Bennett's, who is a bad guy robbery cop on LAPD, in my much latter set book, Bloods a Rover, he's looking good in the meantime. And there's Japanese subs off the coast of Santa Barbara. And she will, in the end, make her choice. And her choice will shock and, I hope, delight the people who sat through the preceding 703 pages. Is anyone,
Yeah.
that's it, right, Tom?
Well, no, I got one last one. But you go,
I was going to call for a question, but you go first.
okay, well, I was going to ask, Elizabeth Holt Andrews is one of our book lovers who is not here, asked...
Hey, cool name, Liz.
Right? We could use it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She wants to know who your ideal reader is. No,
You're close. You're close,
Thanks.
Tom.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of, a great proportion of them in Great Britain, in France.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, there isn't. I write for myself. I write for God. I write for the strange old man or woman who's going to tie one on tonight. It's a swinging Saturday night. It's cold out. They're going to go to bed alone. They will have read 400 pages of one of my books and tied one on with a ginger ale and a microwave burrito. But they know some wild shit that no other reader knows. And there are people like that out there. You cannot attribute race, class, social standing, education, or profession to these people, or nationality. Every once in a while, and they tend not to go to events like this. They just stay home. They stay home with their ginger ale, their books, and their microwave burritos. Now, maybe they'll boot up a couple of porno films off the internet or something before they go to sleep and moan and groan, but they're out there. And that's the kind of kid I was, and that's the kind of reader I was. Anyway, all you fuckers out there, God bless you, and thank you for reading. Does anyone want to ask me, why do you write?
I was wondering, why do you write?
In my craft or sullen art, exercised in the still night, when only the moon rages and the lovers lie abed with all their griefs in their arms, I labor by singing light, not for the strut and trade of charms upon the ivory stages, but for the common wages of their most secret heart. Not for the proud man apart do I write on these spindrift pages, but for the lovers, their arms round the griefs of the ages, who pay no praise or wages, nor heed my art or craft. Dylan Thomas.